Welcome back to the Explanation Pro. Today I'll recap a war comedy film called Hot Shots. Spoilers incoming. Sometime at Flemner Air Base, Navy personnel prepare some jets for takeoff at dawn. During a flight exercise, a pilot named Leland Buzz Harley shows off his unique aerial maneuvers to co-pilot Dominic Mailman Farnham. His desire to push the plane beyond Mach 2 leads him to lose control of his jet. He ejects the Alaskan fly fishing tape and hastily drops down by parachute, leaving his co-pilot to crash in a forest area. Although Mailman survives, his booster seat ejects him without warning, and he gets caught by the branches of the trees. Finding out it is hunting season, he freaks out only to be shot by a hunter who mistakes him for a deer owing to the branches stuck to his helmet. In the present, former Lieutenant Sean Topper Harley wakes up in his teepee from a nightmare about the event which happened some 20 years ago. Just then, Lieutenant Commander James Block arrives in the planes and reveals he knows his father is the late pilot, Buzz Harley. He invites him inside to talk over the fire while inhaling some helium. In a ridiculous voice, the lieutenant requests that Topper returns to active duty as a pilot in the U.S. Navy to help on a new top-secret mission, Operation Sleepy Weasel. As he leaves, Topper asks Chief Owatonna, listening on headphones, for advice, so he is given a biker jacket as a sign he needs to return to the Navy. On a cool motorbike, the former lieutenant rides to Dudley Naval Air Station when he sees a female horseback rider in a field. He tries to impress her by balancing himself on the bike while she, too, shows off her exceptional skills in acrobatics, swinging from tree to tree until she lands back on the horse. Later, after paying the toll fee, he drives straight to the airfield only to be hindered by speed bumps that disrupt his experience. Just then, the clumsy Admiral Benson steps off his plane without air stairs and falls flat on his face in embarrassment. Commander Block greets him and reminds him that the secret mission they will undergo is under his command, which confuses him since he is pretty senile. Meanwhile, Harley arrives at the barracks, where his former pilots excitedly welcome him back, including their rabbi. He then notices Lieutenant Jim Washout Pfaffenbach treating his walleye vision with prescription medication. Though able to talk to him normally, he has difficulty focusing on objects, which is evident when he fails to shake Topper's hand. Topper meets unlucky pilot Lieutenant Pete Dead Meat Thompson as he puts up family photos. They make small talk, befriending each other, much to the disgust of Lieutenant Kent Gregory, who is reading an Esquire magazine about himself. The drill sergeant comes in a huff and keeps everyone in line as he criticizes the soldiers, including the only female cadet, Kowalski. After the sergeant mouths off at Topper, he tries to talk about it with Kent but receives a cold welcome as he blames his father, Buzz, for the death of his father, Mailman. To the surprise of Lieutenant Washout, he reveals a picture frame of his father, the hunter who shot Mailman and made his head a trophy. After a slew of coincidentally family connections from the unit, he apologizes to Gregory on behalf of his father, but the boastful lieutenant blames Topper. As the two men look triggered, Deadmeat tries to break up their fight by letting them shake hands, only to see smoke forming as they do so hesitantly. In the Admiral's office, Block explains the plan of attack to Benson, but the older man feels more concerned about lunch and requests soup, though unsure if a duck is what he prefers. Meanwhile, while waiting for a psychiatric evaluation, Topper is enamored by the legs of the gorgeous therapist, who happens to be the same woman he saw riding on a horse. She examines his previous records, revealing his discharge from the Navy 18 years ago. While listening to her list down some details about Buzz Harley, he freaks out and ruins the chair he is sitting on while insisting he has moved on. She makes a diagnosis of his apparent psychological conflict and requests she visit her regularly, provided he remains professional. He leaves in a huff, insisting he can help himself recover, only to be electrocuted by a bunch of faulty wires hanging from the doorway. Later, Admiral Benson gathers the unit for a debriefing while wearing a ridiculous pair of khaki pants. He talks about executing 194 missions in his time in the Navy and always getting shot down, not landing a single plane safely in his life. He assigns each pilot an Oscar EU 5894 Phallus tactical fighter bomber, one of the most highly advanced planes in avionics, featuring the latest Mrs. Haver Series 3800 radar jamming FRMS. They are all led by Commander Block, who instructs them on the proper flight maneuvers to stay below the radar for the operation. Topper and Gregory decide to show off each other's skills, with the former flying low overhead on busy city roads and over many cars. Though he feels proud of himself, he is later triggered by Block comparing him to his father, and he nosedives out of formation, hitting a billboard in his confusion. He blames seeing Elvis for his sudden maneuver, which the commander insists is already dead as he instructs him to fly back to base. Meanwhile, Washout has problems landing on the correct runway, so he applies eye drops to help him see clearly. As the plane returns to the ground, he mistakenly ends up outside a Las Vegas casino. Later, Topper runs into Ramada in the elevator as he compliments her fragrant scent, only to discover it is just Vicks Vapor Rub for her colds. As he tries to flirt with her, she recommends he stop flying based on her assessment of his mental state, but he declines. Meanwhile, Commander Block meets with airline tycoon Mr. Wilson at a boxing match and passes him a dossier about Topper's paternal conflict syndrome. He reveals that he will use Topper to make the mission fail, even though the Navy's planes will be put to blame to allow Wilson to replace them with his superfighter planes. They continue watching the match briefly, as one of the boxers fakes his left hook and makes his opponent lose on purpose. At the strafing run bar at night, Gregory impresses the other pilots in his solo game of pool. He then sees Ramada, who is revealed to be his former flame, and the pair catch up for a brief moment before Ramada excuses herself to perform a melody on stage. Her performance dazzles the audience, including Gregory, as she walks from table to flirt with the pilots but reveals she is just on lip sync. Topper arrives and starts playing a dramatic piece on the piano as her accompaniment, and they start having feelings for each other, much to the consternation of her former boyfriend. Gregory immediately confronts the two as he berates Topper for his reckless stunt earlier in the day. They quarrel like children until they start gently shoving each other, rousing the bar. Ramada breaks up the fight to calm everyone down and joins Gregory by the bar while he buys free drinks for the entire club, much to the delight of all the patrons rushing and coming down on ropes. She turns down his offer for marriage and leaves him disappointed, only to meet back with Topper to take her home. She invites him inside while also implying she wants to sleep with him. After settling down in her place, Topper raids the refrigerator to feed her an assortment of food, including a grape, a strawberry, and a pie he rolls up to fit her mouth. Before making love, he foreplays with her, putting all sorts of things on her belly button, including eggs and bacon, as her whole body is in heat. The following day, he realizes he will run late, so he leaves her in a hurry while squished on the bed. Meanwhile, Washout says goodbye and reveals he is discharged from the unit because of his vision problems and refusal to take treatment. Before another flight run, Dead Meat's wife Mary comes to the base to spend the rest of her afternoon watching him train. Though looking like an idyllic suburban couple, they are unaware of their attraction to bad luck, as evidenced by her broken mirror and a black cat passing by. She hands him life insurance forms, but his pen runs out of ink, forcing him to sign them later. Just before she sees him off, he reveals he has been keeping proof of President Kennedy's assassination in his pocket. He then sees Topper ride a jet next to him, not knowing it is just Washout wearing his uniform. The pilots start their engines, startling Admiral Benson as his ears are susceptible to noise. The airline attendant offers him earplugs to ease the pain, but he ingests them, thinking they are pills. He then makes an inspirational speech as the pilots perform aerial assaults. While Dead Meat kills a target successfully, Washout crashes into his jet, as he misses his shot of 2 flying ducks. Mary and Topper, who comes late to the exercise, watch as the bumbling pilots fall from the air. Though Dead Meat survives the plane crash, he becomes badly injured as an ambulance hits him and sends him flying into a ditch. Topper comes to his rescue and accompanies him on the way to the hospital as the driver steers the ambulance carelessly over bumps on the road. Washout tries to unfasten his parachute, only to get attached to the speeding ambulance. They make it to the emergency room, where a doctor, already late for his lunch, tries to save Dead Meat's life by checking his penis size, biting his nose, and giving him a hefty dose of morphine. Unfortunately, Dead Meat dies, and a funeral is held in his honor. To make it up to Mary, Topper gives her $2,500 as reparations for his actions, only to find out that she won the lottery worth $3 million and will waste his money on hats. Before the lieutenant is buried, Admiral Benson gives a speech about death that unnerves the crowd. The funeral goes awry as he mistakes the gun salute for enemies returning fire, so he instructs everyone to take cover as he opens fire with his pistol and throws grenades. Meanwhile, inside a limo, Block believes this incident is enough to convince the Navy to buy new fighters, but Wilson dismisses it as something minor, saying the planes need to fail in combat. Topper pays a visit to Ramada, who is busy welding inside her home. He announces his resignation because of his condition, but she insists he is driven by his guilt over Buzz's past actions. While walking on the beach, she reveals her suspicions of Commander Block, as he may want to fail the upcoming operation on purpose. Nearby, a jealous Gregory spots them with his telescope and returns to her home to retrieve a chafing dish. After he leaves, Topper breaks into song to express his emotional attachment to Ramada while playing back memories of their time together, including made-up ones in a boxing ring, in a lavish manner and flying in space. Unfortunately, she admits to being haunted by her past with Gregory and returns home. Back in the base, Block comes to defend Topper in front of the Admiral, who wants dead meat discharged for his actions despite knowing he died recently. On the carrier, SSSS, Washout, now demoted to radar operator, helps the squad land safely. Admiral Benson meets with Wilson and Rosner from Rockman Aviation, not knowing they will sabotage the planes to risk the pilots' lives. As Topper and Gregory fight with mouth guards, he comes into the room to brief the men on attacking an Iraqi nuclear plant while Block assigns Topper to lead the mission, much to Gregory's protest. Though skeptical of his motives, he follows orders and rendezvous with all the other pilots to the landing pad, each readying themselves to fly out in style. During the mission, Block mentions Buzz Harley to Topper, who has a panic attack while flashing back to Gregory and President George H.W. Bush's words about no new taxes. The commander decides to abort the mission as planned when suddenly, Iraqi fighters attack the squadron. Though the pilots retaliate, all their weapons fail. Out of options, Block tells Topper the truth of witnessing Buzz trying to do everything possible to save Mailman, even going so far as to repair the plane's nose but ends up falling out when a newspaper lands in his face, and he grabs onto a detached wing. With his self-confidence restored, Topper single-handedly beats the Iraqi fighters by performing unbelievable aerial maneuvers. He then attracts 2 heat-seeking missiles and leads them directly to the nuclear plant while dropping a bomb on Saddam Hussein. The rest of the pilots make it back ahead of Topper, who is experiencing engine trouble but is guided by Washout on the radio. Back aboard the ship, the crew celebrates as he makes amends with Gregory while also asking him about the chafing dish. He tells a government agent he will go to Disneyland as he is awarded a large sum of money. Later, Block sees him in the middle of a blood transfusion and apologizes for his secret, saying he was jealous of Buzz while being in love with his mother. He also reveals the sabotage which forces Wilson and Rosner to flee, only to get caught by Topper and the Admiral, who punches Wilson hard enough to land in a dentist's chair. Later at dusk, Topper throws his father's eyeballs in the sea. Back in port, Gregory hails Topper as a great pilot and gives his blessing to Ramada to be with him. Filled with glee, she races towards the landing pad on horseback, only to see him fly away in his jet. Back in his teepee home, he gives Owatonna the batteries he requested a while back. He is then surprised to see Ramada dressed in an Indian outfit while now being called a new name which translates to Little Sizzling Belly. They kiss as they prepare some meats to cook. As the sun sets, the spirits of dead meat and Mailman show up as they salute and give a thumbs up, along with Elvis Presley. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe my channel for more videos like this. See you in the next video.